Wait now. 0171 412 1152.
The press conference at Scotland Yard is scheduled to start at exactly 9:15, which is 4 or 5, 6 or 7 minutes away. So in the meantime, we'll take 01 412 is the number. Everybody's mind will have been teeming with a whole kaleidoscope of thoughts, some of which, if you're honest with yourself, almost find yourself, what's the right word, not ashamed. When a terrible thing like this happens, you find yourself turning into an amateur detective, because you think to yourself, I wonder whether it could have been this, and I wonder whether the police have thought of that. Well, fine, 0171 412 1152. It's not going to hurt anybody or anything for us to share this experience, because, as I was saying earlier to Eric Sigmund, LBC's psychologist, whose show is on from 2 until 4 on LBC, this event, this tragedy, the shooting of Jill Dando, is likely to have almost as big an impact on the nation, and in particular the nation's women, it has to be said, I believe, as the death of Princess Di. 0171 412 1152. Let's go to Sue, who's calling from Edgware. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning, Tommy.
Hi.
Hi. I think this is even worse than the death of Princess Diana in some way, simply because Jill Dando wasn't a member of the aristocracy. She was an ordinary girl who happened to work in media, and because she's actually the same age as I am, it just makes it even more distressing when you can literally come out of your own front door and somebody puts a gun to your head, and that's it. That's that. But the point I wanted to make was a very tenuous link. Perhaps she was killed somehow by some militia in retaliation for what's happening, say, to the journalists in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Serbians, something like that. It's a very tenuous thing. It's a bit like the umbrella incident on the bridge, if you remember, when that spy was killed.
Oh, yes.
Yes, years ago. Remember the umbrella?
1978.
Yes.
Plop-off.
And that's right.
Plop-off?
Something like that. With the umbrella scratching his leg, and then he died, and apparently he was injected with ricin.
Yes, what had happened was the umbrella had been fitted with a syringe-like tip in which was contained a ball bearing, which had been hollowed out, a tiny ball bearing the size of a pinhead, which had been hollowed out and which contained a poison.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's sort of like cloak and dagger stuff like that, but what I am suggesting is that they obviously decided that they would target someone in the media, and perhaps, you know, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe because of her holiday programs, I don't know.
It's an awful thought, no more or less chilling than any of the thoughts that one finds oneself entertaining as one tries to seek a little bit of logic, however horrible, in what happened. Sue, thanks for your call. 0171 412 1152. It was said earlier this morning that so often you find once an astonishing and mysterious event has been solved, if that's the right word, that the simplest explanation is usually the one. But in the case of what happened yesterday in Fulham at midday, there doesn't seem to be any simple explanation for that to have been the most likely. Was she an ordinary person? Because ordinary people don't usually find themselves the victim of what's called a hitman attack, if that was the case. We'll cross live to Scotland Yard in a couple of moments for the live press conference. You're listening to LBC. It's coming up to 9:15. And as Douglas said, we will be crossing live to Scotland Yard the moment the press conference begins. 0171 412 1152, but we shan't cross until the officers who are conducting the conference are about to speak, because all you have at the moment is a general hubbub of members of the press and a row of empty seats behind a long table, as you would expect. But we have that line open, and as soon as the press conference, which will bring us the very latest on the shooting of Jill Dando, begins, then you'll hear it straight away here on LBC. 0171 412 1152. One important reaction this morning has come from Nick Ross, the co-presenter of Crime Watch with Jill Dando, who has said this morning that only this morning did the full weight of what happened yesterday to his colleague come home, to quote. He fronted the hard-hitting crime programme for 15 years, and he has revealed that he did have a conversation with her before she agreed to join the program about the dangers that may or may not be attached to working on such a show. But he says this, and I'm quoting now, he said that she had asked in what he says is a very theatrical and hypothetical kind of way. But he goes on to say, Nick Ross, that certainly before she started on the first program, they had a conversation, and she asked, but he felt that she was running through a list, or almost as though it was a checklist of things, and that it was the proper question to ask rather than a question which she felt really deserved some serious searching. Nick goes on, and I'm quoting Nick Ross now, since then she has never really expressed a concern. To be honest, why should she? There has been no indication that Crime Watch or any other program would put a presenter at threat. There has never been any sort of threat received by Crime Watch. Nick Ross goes on, I think people are grasping at straws. We hate the ambiguity and want to know what happened. You're listening to LBC. A press conference has been scheduled for 9:15, but appears to be a few moments late in starting. We could be just 2 or 3 minutes away from the press conference, at which the police have given us no details as to whether or not they're going to be able to reveal any new information, but nevertheless we're going to take that press conference in full as soon as they start speaking. Let's talk to Nick in Islington. Nick?
Hi, good morning. We're talking about this poor girl's unfortunate murder, but the point is, as far as I'm concerned, there's virtually a murderer down in this country now. Now, I'd put, in a nice sort of fashion, and it's very debatable, but I'd put the media, the government, the press, partly in the dock for this girl's murder, because they all oppose capital punishment. And capital punishment, although you say it may not be a deterrent, if someone's going to kill somebody and they've got to face execution, they think twice. In countries where the capital punishment does exist, crime rate, murder rates are much lower.
That's true, that's so true, like in America where hardly anybody gets murdered.
Well, you say that, but...
Quite right, thank you for pointing that out, Nick.
Okay.
And by the way, we don't like people killing people, do we?
Well, of course not, but...
Which is why I'm opposed to capital punishment, because I don't want anybody to be killed on my account.
Well,
and I would ask Ruth Ellis whether she agreed.
Well, the thing is...
Or possibly Timothy Evans whether he agreed.
The stop and searches have stopped and crime's gone up, so it was a deterrent. It was in the Standard yesterday.
Yes. I think you need to go away and have a...
yourselves, but I think you're all guilty.
No. You need to go away and have a good think about yourself.
I thought about it, and so does the British public, and we all want it brought back, yeah?
No, the British public do not want it brought back. 96% of the British public do not want capital punishment brought back.
Let's put a referendum up on it. Let's put a debate up on it, and you'll see.
We've been having the debate for about 30 years.
You think you're in a position to control?
No, you do. You do. You think you're in a position of controlling.
No,
you want the ultimate piece of control. You want to take somebody's life. And you have to go away and wonder exactly why it is that interests you so much. At the moment, we're in a position of wanting to know why, not in a position of wanting to know what to do. You're listening to LBC. We're crossing live to Scotland Yard as soon as the press conference is convened and as soon as the police begin to talk on the tragic shooting in London yesterday of Jill Dando. Now, we understand that they're about 2 minutes away from that press conference. 0171 412 1152. This is LBC, I'm Tommy Boyd. We're going to bring you the press conference from Scotland Yard with the latest information on the Jill Dando shooting just as soon as it begins. 0171 412 1152. We took the sort of obligatory call for the return of capital punishment in this country. If you listen to the radio and watch television, and as I do, you know that somebody will put their head out from under the stone and say that, that's all they want, really. That's what their actual interest is. One always gets the impression that it's difficult for some folk to entertain emotions such as, even say, sadness, or despair even, or confusion. But that they mop up certain events around the world that might help reinforce an argument that they've been flogging for the last 30 years. 017141150 number to Nigel, who calls from Temple Fortune. Morning, Nigel.
Yeah, good morning. I don't believe that Jill Dando's performance as a presenter on a crime programme has got anything to do with her dreadful and awful murder, because Roger Cook is a far more high-profile person in that type of business. Sort of bringing crime and upfronting villains than Jill Dando was.
Yeah, but he was upfronting second-hand car traders, wasn't he?
Well, no, drug barons and smugglers. But the other thing, of course, is that years ago, Tommy, do you remember Police 5 with Shaw Taylor?
He never had to chase murderers.
No, but I'm just trying to say, why would anyone want to single out a television presenter who presents a program to do with catching villains?
Oh, I'm just focusing on your comparison with Roger Cook, between Roger Cook and his program and Jill Dando and Crime Watch. And I'm certain you have to concede that if there were a league table of awful crime, those who were responsible for the worst crimes were more likely to appear on Crime Watch than to be doorstepped by Roger Cook.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, they were, but what I'm just trying to say is that Roger Cook has, apart from sort of appearing on TV in a studio with other presenters and police in showing crimes and inviting witnesses to call in, he went out front and stuck cameras in people's faces, all sorts of nasty, horrible people.
And he was routinely thumped.
Yes, and his cameraman was attacked, and then he retired and he came back again, of course. And years ago, as I mentioned, Shaw Taylor with Police Fire, which was, of course, the beginning of all of these programs.
Yeah,
and it was a terrific program.
Again, once again, I don't think Police 5 may have sent the same shockwaves running through organised crime in this country that Crime Watch may have done. I'd be interested to know, and I think we all would, what was on the agenda of Crime Watch in the upcoming series.
I think the sad thing about it is that it just goes to prove that whoever you are, wherever you are, at midday in a sort of a sunny morning, you're not really safe anywhere, are you? And this is the sad thing about it, how society is changing and making people more worried about their own environment, really. And it's just quite awful. You know, so let's hope that this person can be caught as soon as possible, and let's wish...
You're a man of the world.
Yep.
How likely, on a scale of 1 to 100, do you think it is that somebody will be caught for this?
Very high. I think that the police are showing all their efforts to this, aren't they? And this is a particularly high-profile sort of killing, and it's something which is so blatant, isn't it?
You made an interesting distinction there, and so I'll rephrase the question. How likely is it, do you think, that somebody will be caught and convicted of this? Which is a different question from the one I asked you first.
I think quite high, very high in actual fact. How long it's going to take, I don't know, but I would imagine this is going to be a pretty, well, not easy, no, that'd be a rather facetious thing to say. I think it would be quite likely that this person is going to be caught and convicted. And let's hope the sooner the better.
And what do you think lies behind the killing?
I don't really know, but well, what could it be? Personal grudge, it could be a stalker, it could be anything, couldn't it, Tommy?
Yes, I've got a list of things that, you know, possible, a thief who happens to be armed and you know, is a possibility.
So something coming up to someone...
Case of mistaken identity. You couldn't rule that out.
No, that's true. But it seems to be sort of quite...
a professional grudge.
That's right,
Somebody else.
The word professional hitman have come out, haven't they? The sort of phrases and what have you, and... But it's quite unusual for people to get sort of shot, isn't it? And killed straight away, isn't it? Unless, you know, apart from having a gun...
I remember reading as a boy a book about the Wild West in which they said that hardly any victims of gunfights, you know, the old standoff that you see, John Wayne at one end of the street and Lee Van Cleef at the other, hardly anybody who was ever shot in any of those gunfights in the real live Wild West ever took about 3 weeks to die.
Awful.
They tended to die from complications of the wound rather than instantly, which is what appears to have happened here. And that therefore leads you to suspect that...
It was a professional hit.
Thank you for your call.
Bye-bye.
Nigel in Temple Fortune. The number is 0171 412 1152. We are experiencing, a thousand apologies for this, we are experiencing a technical difficulty in our link between Scotland Yard and LBC. But as soon as we have the feed from Scotland Yard, we'll bring you the latest from the press conference there. You're listening to LBC, I'm Tommy Boyd. It's coming up to 9:30. That's the number, and Ron has called from Finchley. Morning, Ron.
Hello, Tommy. Nice to talk to you. Right, now your last caller and hang in. Now I'm going to put something to you. I heard you talking to your son the other day on the phone, and it came over...
No, just don't.
Why?
Because I know what you're going to say, and if you give me that thought, I'll come round and I'll talk to you personally. Now don't. I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right.
And how dare you.
Well...
Were you going to say that?
Of course I was, because
you
if it happened to me...
You go the hell out of my life. You go the hell out... You completely twisted individual. There should be some sort of punishment for people like you who want other people to entertain thoughts like that which they won't be able to get out of their mind for the rest of their lives. Go to hell, Ron.
Or my child, I will want that person hung. And so would you. Goodbye, Tommy.
I don't think anybody could pay me enough to have life like Ron ask me to entertain thoughts such as he wanted me to entertain in order that he can win half a house point on a completely abstract argument. Anne Diamond and I have had to sit here this morning dealing with images such as the last seconds of a colleague's life. Anybody who's ever worked in journalism will have had to have dealt with the 15 minutes in the school gymnasium at Dunblane. That is part and parcel of the job. And anybody's happy to do it. But if you believe in capital punishment, and you're somebody who, like Ron, would want to torture a person who has reservations about it, by forcing them to construct mental images of the hideous death of their infant children, then it's clear that care in the community isn't working. I forgive you, Ron, but don't ever do it again to anybody, because nothing on earth is worth what you tried to do. Helen calls from Winchmore Hill. Helen.
I'm absolutely devastated, as we all are, over the news about Jill Dando. But a thought I have in mind, and it is not just an immediate thought, it has been going through my mind for months and months and months, is that as regards the Crime Watch programs, far too much is expected now of the involvement of the public. Too much responsibility is being placed now on the public. Responsibility which should be delegated to police. More policing. More fundamental involvement, but not the public. I have thought...
Helen, stay with us, please. I understand that we might be able to cross to Scotland Yard and pick up the press conference which is taking place, at which Detective Inspector Hamish Campbell has been speaking about the very latest. Our understanding is, I'm sorry, we're having technical problems with that. Our understanding is that the gist of the conference is that there is nothing new to report at this stage, and it was just an update to remind everybody that the police investigation is looking into every possible line of inquiry. Helen, stay with us and we'll come back to you. 0171 412 1152 is the number. You're listening to LBC. And Helen was making a powerful point, which is that it's the police's job and not the job of the public via television, i.e. Crime Watch, to solve crimes. But they need our help, don't they, Helen?
Yeah, I think that's that's in a nutshell what I mean. Too much involvement.
Have you ever had a nightmare as a result of watching a program like that?
I can't say that I've ever had a nightmare, but all these Crime Watch programs I have watched, and I should say at least for 6 months, if not longer, I have been thinking that there's too much responsibility now being placed on the shoulders of the public, which should be carried out by the police, CID, or whomsoever, but not the public. In fact, I think it's asking for trouble.
Okay, Helen.
People who would come forward would be the ones who would be involved in even more trouble as retribution.
Let's go to Kelly, who calls from Walton-on-Thames. Good morning, Kelly.
Oh, hello.
Hello,
Sorry.
welcome to LBC. Hi.
Hello. Yes, my sentiments. I don't think it's got anything. I mean, everyone's going on about the conspiracy theory because that's quite nice to delay. I'm going off in the other room. I do think that it's actually. Sorry about that. My alarm just went off. So I think it's down to just the Green Ink Brigade, basically, the lot that write to you in green ink. And why can't they use a gun in a way that made this awful thing happen? You know, that's it really.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Her alarm went off in the middle of that, and I think it distracted her slightly. I'll leave you at home to pick the bones out of Kelly's call. 0171 412 1152 is the number. You're listening to LBC. Cordelia's on her way to work in Islington. She's on her mobile. She's been listening to the programme, but she wanted to call and say this.
Hello?
Cordelia, hi.
Hi. I'm just on my way to work, and I listened to, I just heard one of the callers talk about the fact that too much emphasis has been put on the public. And I feel that, I'm not an avid television watcher, but I have seen Crime Watch now and then. And basically, isn't it, my view is that it is the police who are fronting that program with Jill as a presenter at that time to assist them with their inquiries. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, really. After all, there are many times we see things and we don't realise the implication of what we've seen, and then maybe those kind of programs kind of jog our memory. So I'm grateful for that type of program, because if I was in that position, a victim, and that and Crime Watch was able to bring somebody's memory, you know, to the forefront so that they could remember something that could aid me, then I would be grateful. I just think that what's happened to Jill is just a reflection of society. Obviously, we don't know why it happened. And there's obviously a reason, but we just don't know what it is, and it's a shame. But there you go.
Listen, thanks for your call. Keith calls now. He's near Maidstone. He's also mobile. Morning, Keith.
Oh, morning. Yes, there's been a lot of emphasis on the mobile phone. And it seems this suggests to me either the killer was not acting alone, somebody was giving him messages, or he might even have identified his target through his mobile phone by ringing her up, who knows, or that it was a disguised weapon.
Okay, one thought which I have just had is that it may be that the police are pursuing that line of inquiry by asking the major providers if they're able to provide them with information about incoming and outgoing calls within that footprint, within that cell. I don't know if you're familiar with how mobile phones transmit and are transmitted to.
I haven't got one. I've got a vague idea.
You haven't got one?
I haven't got a mobile phone, but I do understand more or less.
Yeah, it's quite a big area, though.
Yes.
I mean, there may have been 2,000 mobile phones in action in that part of Fulham between 11:30 and whenever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's the way sleuthing tends to be nowadays. It seems to be an awful lot of paperwork and monotonous detail, but it often produces results. Or a weapon. You're right. A few people have speculated this morning that whoever saw the man walking away may have mistaken a weapon for a mobile phone.
Or a mobile phone disguised as a weapon.
Oh, that's a little bit Q-ish, isn't it, from...
If I were a novel writer, that's the sort of idea I might have.
That's true, if you were a novel writer, and Sean Connery is in this country, isn't he? That's the one way human mind works. That's less likely, but it's one of those ones, Keith, where a person can rule nothing out from their own thinking. Thanks for your call. 0171 412 1152. Here's the latest. Crime Watch presenter Jill Dando was shot dead at very close range with a 9mm semi-automatic gun, Scotland Yard has revealed a few moments ago. Now, speculation grew that the popular BBC star was the victim of an underworld hitman. Detectives leading the hunt for the killer revealed that a man may have been seen hanging around her home for more than an hour before the shooting. A window cleaner in the area saw a man outside Miss Dando's home in Fulham, southwest London, at about 10:30 a.m. yesterday, and an hour later another witness saw a smartly dressed man carrying a mobile phone further along the road. This information was delivered by Detective Chief Inspector Hamish Campbell. And just to remind everyone, Jill Dando, 37, who presented BBC's Crime Watch programme for 4 years, amongst others, was shot outside her home at around 11:30 a.m. yesterday and pronounced dead at a nearby hospital just after 1 p.m. 0171 412 1152 is the number. You're listening to LBC. I'm Tommy Boyd. And just a little further from that press conference, Jill Dando left her home at about 10 a.m. yesterday to go shopping in Hammersmith Mall, and police believe that she may have been followed or met her killer. She arrived home at about 11:30 a.m. and DCI Campbell said, quote, "She got out of her car, locked her car, and the man who shot her either walked down the street or was waiting for her. That we don't know. The killer, who is believed not to have been wearing gloves or a mask, then walked away from the scene of the murder," he said. So what was learnt from the press conference this morning appeared to be two things. One, that she was shot at very close range with a 9mm semi-automatic gun, and two, that police believe that Miss Dando left her home at about 10 a.m. yesterday to go shopping, and police believe that she may have been followed or met her killer. 0171 412 1152. Steve Allen will be here in a few moments to tell us what's in his show starting at 10 o'clock, but let's talk now to Kevin, who calls from New Cross. Kevin, you're on LBC. Hi.
Hi, Tommy. Very, very sad situation with Jill. More importantly, a lot of people have been talking about capital punishment, and I'm just really ringing up because I was incensed by Ron. I mean, I have 3 young children of my own, Tommy, and obviously you'll know where I'm coming from on this, but to actually put that into an argument, I don't, as you so rightly said, you cannot even begin to put that into an argument. I mean, I hadn't even thought about it till that was referred to, and that really upset me immensely. And I just really think that the guy's an absolute pleb to even try and bring it into the equation at all, really. And that's all I really want to really say about that. But just one other point I'd like to make, though, Tommy, is that whilst we've got the situation with all of the police involved, and they're actually obviously rightly so trying to get this guy because it's outrageous. I mean, it just strikes me that there wasn't the same enthusiasm on the police's behalf when the Stephen Lawrence case was going ahead. And I don't know what you think about that.
There wasn't the same profile for the killing for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think more in case of the actual way it was approached and dealt with in the whole sort of...
it took a long time for all of us for the Stephen Lawrence killing to come to our attention.
Yeah.
But for legitimate reasons, not for racist reasons, for legitimate reasons, because it was what gets called a member of the public in the case of Stephen Lawrence, whereas it was a celebrity, somebody who people thought they knew in the case of Jill Dando.
Yeah, absolutely horrendous. A lovely woman, she'll be greatly missed, I'm sure we'll agree on that one anyway.
Yeah, no question about that, Kevin, and I hope the youngsters are well and that you can quite easily wrap up in a piece of brown paper and chuck away the thoughts that man Ron made you have.
Exactly. And anyway, lovely to talk to you, Tommy.
And you, Kevin.
Great show. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. It is sometimes staggering, the crudity that some people are prepared to bring to a conversation in order to win a petty point of argument, a petty, tiny point of argument, that a man is prepared to say that you should imagine and then start to talk to you about your children, that he should choose to have you undergo that kind of torture so that he can win a petty point about arguing. And I have to say, I'm very proud to be on the side of people who do not believe in capital punishment, because we do not believe in committing any kind of cruelty, and I do not believe in committing any of the cruelty that Ron probably deserves. So I won't. 0171 412 1152 is the number. Betty's in Edgware. Betty, you're on LBC. Hi.
Hello. I'm not certain this should go on air, but you see how you feel. I just wanted to...
Well, it's going to be a bit late then. Betty, is it my job on the line or your bank balance?
No, neither. Now, this dreadful thing, we're all becoming amateur sleuths, which isn't correct, because the person that did this is probably laughing his or her head off.
It's perfectly correct. How can you not?
Pardon?
It's perfectly correct to be an amateur sleuth. How can you not?
Because in the end it becomes a form of entertainment for voyeurs and listeners. But listen, please.
Well, what are you on the radio then for?
To give you a different side of it.
Oh, right. And we're what?
What do you mean? I said I didn't want to go on air in the first place.
And everybody else is doing what?
Nothing. I'm not complaining about this. Why, don't try and force an argument out of something so vital and so sad.
Well, no, you can't take the moral high ground on this one, although you're trying very hard to do it.
No, you're taking this as a complaint. I'm telling you something that could have happened.
Well, I'm concerned when you tell our listeners that they shouldn't be wondering what might have happened. That's all they're doing. They're not being amateur sleuths, and that's perfectly correct to wonder what might have happened.
All right, well, this is what I wonder might have happened.
Oh, right, you've got a theory.
Okay?
Yeah, go on then.
Now, her fiancé is a medical person. The patient's
No, Becky, we've got to leave that one alone. You're absolutely right. It's probably not a good idea to... my goodness me, how an interesting collection of... What an extraordinary hour it's been. If you want to know what Becky's theory was, you can drop me a line, I suppose, but there has to be a stamped addressed envelope in it. I think I can get away with that. I don't think you really want to know. 0171 412 1152 is the number. We've brought you all the details on the press conference which took place a few moments ago at Scotland Yard, and thus liberated, it means that Steve Allen can fly onwards and upwards. A show that will touch the sky.
The professional hitman.
Touch the face of God.
Professional hitman.
Oh, you're back there, are you?
A 9mm semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah.
One bullet in the side of the head. That's a hitman. As far as I'm concerned, somebody who's probably not even in the country at the moment. In, do it, out. Simple as that. They will never catch them.
Why?
Because somebody wouldn't be that calm.
No. Why would anybody contract the presenter of a holiday programme?
Well, she wasn't seen as the presenter of a holiday programme. She was seen fronting a programme for Kosovo. And we were told only a matter of a week ago, which we mentioned on the programme, that it was said that there were Serbian hitmen in the country targeting those who support the Kosovans. And Jill was picked by the BBC to front a programme which raised, I think, £6 million in 10 days. That would be seen by the Serbians as somebody, even though they didn't know probably who she was.
Why haven't they said so then?
But why would they?
Well, because
we have four groups claiming to have never nailed bomb.
Yes, but it's a propaganda. It would be if it were to be the case, it would be a propaganda gesture rather than.
I think Jackal went round saying, by the way.
Oh, you can't hardly say that it's an attempt to eliminate a key player in the Balkans crisis.
I didn't say it. I merely put a theory forward. You see, you're assuming judge and jury at the same time.
And saying God quicker than you ever come forward.
But that's what I'm good at. And we'll talk health at 11.
Where will you?